let's go. Video number 2. Now, I'll be honest, I should be working on school. I might have a calculus quiz tomorrow morning. Now, back in my high school days, there were the boys. Allow me to introduce them. So, first off, we had the man, the myth, the legend, Juicy Joe. He was that guy that didn't have to try. He could sit in class playing Tetris, getting high scores, and still get 90s in the class. Meanwhile, the people who actually cared about grades are busting their... Wait a minute. Hold on. Busting their tushies off, just trying to compete. My man would show up 5 minutes before calculus, before a quiz, stroll up to the group and say, "All right, guys, what do I need to study?" Yeah, he always crushed the quizzes. Absolute legend. Next we got Kurt. This was the guy that, as I would describe, was the party pleaser. He was a bit of a loose cannon. However, I didn't get to experience all my time with him, since I was forced into a different English class. To give an example of what he would do is, he would grab my fingers and begin to crack them. I would literally try to pull my hand away, but his grip was too strong. He cracked everything past the elbow, stuff that shouldn't be cracked. He would get each and every knuckle on each and every finger. It would burn for minutes afterwards. Next we have Boone. A very tall stick, I would describe him. He was very smart, and he was Asian. Loved anime, but also hated it. He always told me not to watch, since it took too much of his time. But of course, he would always say it was too late for him to stop. I've asked him, and he wanted to stop, but he was like, no, it's too late. A 20-year-old already sentenced to a fate he no longer wanted to be a part of. Tragic. So now you know the majority of the boys. We, as the boys, had great ideas. Obviously. One of those being lunch. We would go to Dairy Queen, which was a couple blocks away from the school during our lunch period. The only thing is, it took 20 minutes to get to Dairy Queen. 15 if we really booked it. Lunch was a solid hour and 15 minutes. About 40-ish minutes at Dairy Queen. Solid. But this particular day, we made an insane revelation. We could dine on these fantastic chicken strips for 40 minutes and then kill ourselves, or we could play the system. For a little background information, if anyone showed up late for a class, then you would get a late slip, which practically means nothing. However, if you skip a class, then you get a detention, which means that's one day we can't go to Dairy Queen with the boys. You might notice something, as did us. If we show up late to phys ed class, 5 minutes to the end, we get to dine for another 55 minutes with no consequences. So that's exactly what we did. We enjoyed our amazing chicken strips with a hot fudge sundae, showed up 5 minutes to the end of class, and enjoyed our food and our scrumptious delight. It was great. We still got detention. No! All right. Later, one of us, probably, maybe, possibly me, made a calculation. Each of us having a maximum input of money. Think of it this way. We have absolute minimum wage times absolute baby numbers of work time, which therefore means we would run out of the monies. So, the boys had to transition our lunches to something more eventful and fruitful and cheap. We then delved our inquisitive minds and strength to something productive. A little game called Grounders. We would go out every day at lunch to play Grounders for about 3 weeks straight. What a time to be alive. There was a slight problem, though, as there usually is. Wouldn't you believe I had a lunch class? But just an art class. The ever-deadly art class. But here's the thing. Art class is pretty much just a work period. And the teacher takes attendance at the beginning of class and then just kind of putters on her own thing. So what did I do? What do you think I did? Well, I went to art class like a reputable student, of course. For 5 minutes. And then it was Grounders time. Let's go! Now, on a completely unrelated note, I was sitting in English class. This is maybe, a long time later. And, the intercom rings. Winford, please come to the office. Winford to the office. That's oddly suspicious. So I go, and wouldn't you know it, it's my art teacher. Hi, Winford. I've noticed you haven't been in art class for the past 3 weeks. Death. So I expect you to be there every single lunch for the end of the semester. Of course, I am at this millisecond currently thinking of all the projects I haven't handed in. There are 5. Each of them is worth 20%. If I remember correctly, I may have possibly done 1. Maybe I did 2. So, technically, I haven't done 60% of the class, and we're talking like a couple weeks from graduation. But that's fine, no problem. Just a couple weeks to bang out some art projects? No, we got it. So, I don't actually get detention for skipping 3 weeks of art class. I just work every lunch awkwardly with the teacher, 5 feet away from my desk. Yeah, it's great. It was great. Okay, so 2 weeks later or so, there was a talent show at the school. All the high energy people sign up to, do haha funny things called talent. So I'm sitting in there waiting for the show to start with some of the boys, and a teacher comes up to me. A different one, like somebody I never talked to. And they're like, Winford. And I'm like, yeah, what's up? And they're like, you can't be in here. And I'm like, oh, why is that? And they're like, you need to go to study hall. And I'm like, oh, what? Why? And they're saying, you're failing art class. You cannot make this stuff up. My guy, Winford, you're failing art class. Goodbye. So I probably saluted the boys and left. Yup. Good times.